Does this put us in a situation where there is a constitutional crisis?
He was wrong. He's got a sick sense of paranoia.
I am concerned. I have a horrible feeling that we're seeing a breakdown in plain sight.
If they come here and if it goes off without a hitch, presumably that undermines his argument about the need for extra security.
He sort of painted himself into a corner a little bit because he either accepts that position now or he sticks his heels in and says, right, they can never come.
Breaking today, growing fears of a constitutional crisis if King Charles goes ahead with a meeting with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle this weekend. That potential raised fascinatingly by Katie Nichols, the royal editor of Vanity Fair, who just so happens to be one of those journalists who Prince Harry tried to destroy in his Daily Mail court case, but now she, feeling emboldened for very good reason, believes that she probably has the information to destroy him. I mean, who genuinely now believes, after this week, that Prince Harry can remain a Councillor of State, signing off on laws? Who genuinely believes that Prince Harry can remain on the royal website? And who even genuinely believes that Prince Harry can remain in the line of succession? Not me. But here is Katie Nichols' argument on Piers Morgan.
Does this put us in a situation where there is a constitutional crisis? How long can the king, who has been incredibly generous in extending the olive branch, in allowing them to have and retain those titles, when I think we've moved so far from the Sandringham Summit and what was agreed then?
Yes.
How far can Harry and Meghan continue to push it?
The problem is, Harry with his father, as I witnessed, he did no wrong. You know, the king always kind of, to an extent, let him get away with things. And he was the youngest son kind of thing. And I think Harry still thinks he's got that leverage over him. I honestly think that he still thinks he can, you know, pull the king's heartstrings. I think that's what this is about.
I think he does. And let's not forget that the king advised his son not to take on Associated
Absolutely.
Newspapers.
Yeah. But also, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with these other relationships with the other complainants in this court case. We're all hearing that it's been a bit strange between Harry and Sir Elton John.
So, P. Dinah, do you believe that this could end up resulting in a constitutional crisis? And that is one of the reasons why Prince William and Queen Camilla have been so keen to tell King Charles, like, just stay away?
Absolutely. And I think part of the reason is, once again, Meghan and Harry are not at agreement with each other, and so she is still influencing the things that Harry is doing, which is a direct influence or on the monarchy, because the king is still kind of supporting Harry. I think it's just not good. You have seen what they have done in the past. Learn from that. They have already put a lot of things out there that don't look good for the monarchy in terms of the allegations that Harry is trying to walk back now, you know, around the racism and around things that, you know, Meghan had complaints with. So as long as Meghan is still a part of the picture, you have to distance yourself from Harry, because nothing good is going to come from that. I mean, any leeway you give to Harry is going to pass over to Meghan, and then we know she has a vendetta. We know that she has reasons to not want to align the way the royals want them to align, because she wants to have her say. So that's just never going to be good. You're just asking for trouble, and I think it could be a direct reflection to the monarchy, when there is still this couple trying to dictate things for their own careers, their own futures.
Yeah.
Because we know that they've failed already.
Well, indeed.
Right?
And P. Dinah as well, there's also the reality this week that by coming into the country and by bringing Meghan and the children in, potentially, if we actually believe it, you know, because we can't trust a thing they say, P. Dinah. We've got to wait until we see it with our own eyes. But there is the argument, which is even being made by the mainstream media, by the way, because I'm going to show you Kate Mansi and Roy Anika of the Times and the Sunday Times, respectively, that by doing that, Harry has just completely undermined the argument that he has spent months making, that the country is too unsafe for his family. Look at this.
It's about so much more than just his legal battles. It's about his emotional battle as well with his own family, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're still here, aren't we? Kind of 6 years after he left royal duties, and all the water under the bridge. He hasn't moved forward at all. You know, we've said it before. He can't seem to look forward. He's always looking backwards. And I don't think ultimately the security situation hasn't changed. If the UK authority are assessing your visit on a case by case basis, and you tell them what you plan to do, then and they say, well, there's no cause for armed security, and you say, well, yes, there is. How will that be any different from a risk management board?
And if we see Meghan and the children arrive in the next few days here, and he doesn't have the extra security, which we know he doesn't, which he's asked for, does that undermine the argument a little bit? If she comes and brings the children and they're able to move around and she goes to an engagement with him, let's see, we don't know that's going to happen. Let's say there's a possibility that they may meet with the king. We don't know, but it might still happen. If they come here and if it goes off without a hitch, presumably that undermines his argument about the need for extra security.
He sort of painted himself into a corner a little bit because he either accepts that position now or he sticks his heels in and says, right, they can never come.
All right, aren't they, P. Diner? I mean, he absolutely has undermined his own argument. And this is why he went so hard to get the security, of course, because he has to bring them. And he's not... Can everyone... This is what frustrates me and infuriates me when I see this mainstream media coverage. He doesn't give a damn about King Charles. Can we just be honest about why he's bringing the children? He has to take them to... Well, if he is indeed bringing the children. He needs to try and take them to Althorpe to film for the documentary, which they want to put up to market for the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death. And being able to have some footage of that, even if it's only mobile phone footage, is significantly going to up the value. So can we please just stop talking about the fact that there's any type of altruistic element to it, P. Diner? The latest bombshells from Harry and Meghan that the Montecito Mafia and the rest of the media are desperate to hide. Subscribe right now for the real story with zero spin and zero censorship.
I don't know, Dan. I think there is an emotional connection, I think, that Harry has with his children to see his world, to see his life. I feel that Harry wants that, but I think he's being pulled back from that because of Meghan. She doesn't want to align with the royals anymore. And so Harry is doing what he has to do. I believe his obligation to trying to get this footage for the Diana documentary, but I also believe that Harry wants his children to have a life that includes what Harry knows and what is close to him and how he was brought up. And so he's trying to do that, but he can't really do it the way he wants to do it because of what Meghan is doing, because I believe they're arguing behind the scenes. They don't want the same things. And this is why when we hear about the security and everything, it makes no sense because it's a lie, Dan. It's a complete lie. It is Meghan making these problems for Harry, and he looks like the idiot because we know there's no security threat. There's no problem. But I do believe Harry wants his children to have some connection with his father. I believe that.
See, what's interesting, P. Diner, and I actually want to show you Meghan Kelly, my friend Meghan Kelly, telling my other brilliant, one of my heroes actually broadcasting, Paul Murray of Sky News Australia, that Prince Harry now has a genuine sickness, and it's a sickness involving paranoia. But what that means is that he is now trying to sue people just for telling the truth, right? This is Meghan's explanation. It's really interesting. Listen.
How could I not ask you about Prince Harry? He couldn't have lost bigger in his court case against newspapers in the UK. Multiple 100-page judgment, basically didn't win a single count. Now he may have to pay millions.
Paul, it's yet another instance of Harry playing the fake victim. He's been railing about this case for years now. He thinks of himself as some sort of an avenger of, speech issues where he's going to punish the ones who tell lies or use surreptitious means in journalism to obtain facts about public figures, poor embattled public figures like Harry and Meghan, and really thought he'd be truth to power. I'm going to sue. That's all they ever do. These two sue every journalist, it seems, who writes something negative about them. We're constantly reading about their latest lawsuit. And this one He was completely wrong. The Daily Mail, to its credit, put on a bunch of journalists, the ones who had been accused of using illicit means as a way of getting stories on Harry and others. And all the journalists said, tell me what you're accusing me of. No, that's not how I got that story at all. This is how I got that story. And, you know, as much as a journalist doesn't like to give up his or her source, the exposing the means by which you amassed your information was necessary here because they were being accused of essentially breaking the law. So he was wrong. He's got a sick sense of paranoia.
She also blew apart his Princess Diana narrative, suggesting that he should back an organisation like Mothers Against Drink Driving rather than trying to shut down the free press.
You know, I'm sorry that his mother died in the way she did when he was a young boy. Really, you should be joining MAD if you're upset over that. Mothers Against Drunk Driving or Families Against Drunk Driving. His mother was killed by a drunk driver, not by the paparazzi. She was followed by the paparazzi all the time. She knew that. She coaxed the paparazzi into following her and taking her picture all the time. She knew how to work them just as well as anyone. And so this whole narrative about how like she's just completely been piled on and then poor Harry's been now fighting to stop it from happening to Meghan. That's why he's got to do these press fights. It's a lie. It was a lie from the first acorn all the way now through to the big tree that he continues to nourish. And I think it's wonderful that the Daily Mail fought back, that he's been humiliated. And if he has to pay some massive legal fees as a result of being wrong, because over there in the UK, it is loser pays, unlike here in America, where generally everybody takes their own and walks away. Good. Maybe that'll really teach him a lesson. And you didn't prove your case. You had the opportunity to prove your case. You failed to do so. That's how the legal system works. Yes, no, he's never seen a situation in which he is not the victim. And he enjoys being the victim. That fake car chase was one of the greatest examples where there was no car. You cannot have a car chase in New York City. Anybody who's visited New York City knows you can't go 2 square blocks without hitting a red light or a biker or a delivery man that will slow your roll. But secondly, remember in their documentary on Netflix, used very loosely, how, you know, she was pretending like, oh, is he gone yet? Is he still there? It was one guy on a Vespa. They tried to make it sound like they were being surrounded by hordes of paparazzi. It was one dude on a Vespa.
Indeed, and that is why there are now growing calls for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to permanently become private citizens.
Leave the royal family. Leave the titles behind if you really don't want this anymore. Go live in Canada or Montecito. We got stuck with them here. But actually become a private citizen. Become a private person. Do your charity work quietly and without the constant need for the spotlight. Stop with your wife's disaster tourism, showing up at the scene where children have been murdered and putting yourself on camera. The constant need to be in front of the lens in a way that will eventually pay dividends for them through their as ever line of jam or their next Netflix or Spotify deal. Like, they work the press the same as Princess Diana did, and they just don't want the downsides of it. You know, it's like, as you know from being a public figure, as I know too, there are upsides and there are downsides. You know, if you have something to promote, you can probably get easily booked. If you write a book, people will probably want to talk to you about it. And that's a blessing. That's a true blessing. The downside is if they want to write about how crappy you look or you're aging poorly or you're just not a likable person, they can. And you have to take your licks like a professional. That's the lesson these two have never learned. It's none of your business what other people think of you. Take your licks like a grown-up and go on living your beautiful life. If you and whine and sue about it all the time, people hate you. And the press that buys ink by the barrel is only more incentivized to loathe you and to feed the people who loathe you with more negative stories. So it's just the reality of being a public figure. You've got to take it like a grown-up. Stop suing people who have endless supply of time and anger toward you. And when you get a lesson from a judge, take it humbly, quietly, and move on.
Pete, Dinah, a lot to unpack there. But I found it really fascinating, actually. And I do always love Megyn Kelly's take on these things because she sometimes looks at them quite differently. And actually, she's fundamentally got a point, hasn't she? Prince Harry has always been trying to raise the wrong sense of awareness over his mother's death. I mean, if this really was just about his mother's death, then she's right. He would consider backing an anti-drink drive organisation. He'd consider backing a campaign to make people wear seatbelts in cars. I mean, I don't say this lightly, P. Dinah. I know how much you adored her too. Princess Diana's death means I never get into a car without a seatbelt on now. I don't care how short the journey is. Her death changed that forever for me. And I will never forget it. You know, he has created a fantasy.
This channel provides news reporting, commentary, criticism, and analysis based on publicly available information. All images, video clips, and other materials belong to their respective copyright owners and are used where appropriate for commentary.
Battle where he's a fantasy player. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of bad actors, P. Dinah, who have put this idea into his head. But at the end of the day, he's an adult. He's a grown adult. He's a man in his 40s. He's got to reposition now. He's got to move on.
Yeah. And, you know, I think part of the reason why he does that is because he wants to align his mother's life with his wife's life. He wants to compare the two. So he wants to show that, well, my wife is having the same problems as my mother, but they're not. They're made up. You don't see paparazzi chasing Meghan like it was a Vespa, okay? Like they want to create the illusion of Meghan going through the same ills as his mother, and it's just not true. Yeah, go on and take on a drunk driver, mad, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. That's where your focus should be. But see, that would make too much sense. That would be where you really would have to do the alignment. You know, and so this is why this whole thing around the press chasing them and trying to, you know, have this security is a lie, because it's based on something that he's created in his head, a fantasy around this alignment with his mother. Because I think they want to try to get the likes of Diana to, you know, be like Diana will give them the same kind of stardust, right? To make people really love them if they can align Meghan's problems with what Diana had. And it's just not true, right? So I could go on and on about that, because I think that's why she went to complain about the royals, because Diana complained about the royals, but she was still pro-monarchy, right? But Meghan did it as well, thinking she was going to be like Diana, you know, and it completely backfired. So there's a lot of things that they're doing that is deceptive and it's not true. This is why it makes no sense, because it's a lie, you know?
Totally. There was one other interesting moment of the week, P. Dinah, that I wanted to play you, because I've been saying for some time that Prince Harry is no longer hiding his breakdown. But the PR expert Jackie Vorse, she's the co-host of When Pop Culture Meets PR, told our friend Paula Frolic on her Paula Frolic Uncensored podcast that it's worrying that the people around Harry are unable to even hide anymore. That this very public breakdown, and she does use that word, and I think she's right to use that word, is happening and is actually getting worse rather than getting better. Watch this.
Well, I had a discussion with my people, and I am concerned. I have a horrible feeling that we're seeing a breakdown in plain sight. I just, the movements, the way they move, the way they talk is so erratic. You know, from a statement saying, a leaked story in The Sun saying, I'm coming and I'm bringing my family, and how exciting is that? To then throwing his toys out of the pram saying, we're not coming because we haven't got the security, but they knew that they didn't have the security. And it all seems to be that, you know, he wasn't getting what he wanted. So he uses press. And this is another big thing about press, Paula. You know this. You cannot use press on your whim. You can't use press as a tool to satisfy your whim. You work with the press. It's a symbiotic relationship. And this is where Harry gets it so wrong. He's attacking the press and then wanting the press to leak stories so that he can get his way with his security. It's just so erratic, and I do worry that he isn't operating correctly. I think it goes even further than them making money now, Paula. As I said when we started talking, I think that it's beyond brand Sussex. I think it's gone into a constitutional thing right now, and I think there's going to be a few of those men in grey suits scratching their heads and thinking, this all has to stop.
I found that really interesting too, P. Dinah. What do you make of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, breakdown, problems in the marriage. There's fighting going on behind the scenes. Absolutely. It makes no sense to have all of this disorder and disarray of what we're doing, what we're not doing, all the security we need. And it's like, get a hold of yourself, handle yourself. Like, you are completely losing it right now. This is not that difficult. But they're making it that way because they've got problems behind the scenes that we don't see. And so the things that they're putting out there are chaotic. They don't make sense because they are completely losing it behind the scenes. That is exactly how I see it. What she said is exactly right. It's a complete breakdown of the marriage, of Harry's mental stability. Like, nothing's working out for them. How can it? I mean, you just have ulterior motives to do things that you want and you're not getting it. And so you're losing your minds. Your lives are completely falling apart. It's going to get worse and worse. The more they try to brand and get out there to do all these different things to make money, the worse it's going to get. They're a complete disaster, both of them, Harry and Meghan. And I believe because Harry's the one out there the majority of the time, a lot of this is actually coming from Meghan, that Harry's projecting out to everyone else, right? Yeah, it's crazy what's happening right now behind the scenes.
It is crazy, P. Dinah. And you know what? You can't trust the mainstream media coverage of it. I keep saying it this week. Of course, you've got to subscribe to the brilliant P. Dinah channel on YouTube. You can find her by searching for PDINA. And what I'm also asking people to do at the moment, P. Dinah, is subscribe to my Substack, because it doesn't impact you so much in the US, but in Britain, the government are attempting to bring in new censorship laws, which effectively want to boost reporters like Chris Shipp from Woke ITV, reporters from the British Bashing Corporation like Daniela Ralph. They want to boost them in the algorithm to take away channels like yours, to take away channels like mine. It's disgusting. We know why they're doing it, because they're trying to keep the narrative going. But that's why it's really important, if you can, to subscribe to my Substack. You can do so completely for free, by the way, at www.outspoken.live. Paid monthly and annual subscribers, though, do get full access to the Royal Uncancelled After Show, twice the length of what you usually see on YouTube, with no advertising whatsoever. So I would love you to be part of it if you can. And it really helps me because, as I say, we're in a battle at the moment. We're in a battle because the government is trying to take control of the algorithm. Don't worry if that makes no sense to you. Just make sure you're also subscribed on YouTube, keep the notification bell turned on, and just search out our episodes. That is the key thing. Make sure you're subscribed, spread the word. And thank you so much for